But we'll go ahead and get started just because we don't have a ton of time. And I want to make sure to get through this training just sort of as much as possible and as quickly or as efficiently as we can. One thing is I'm going to be going back and forth between this presentation and my internet browser, which is this one, and hopefully I'll have it ready so that it'll just be, oh, take me a second to get back and forth between the two. But so just to let you know, I'll be going back and forth between those two tabs. And in order to have enough room on my screen, I've sort of put the chat into like a little black box. So if you want to hold your questions until the end, just write them down because it'll help. I'm sure if you've got it, then there's lots of other folks. Feel free to speak up and say, could you do that again? But I can answer questions towards the end. And this training, we're recording it. And so it's for the City of Florence with a couple of guests. And thank you for letting us record this. Right now, we're not doing a lot of trainings on the current website because we are actually developing and working on a new version of RLID. And that is the other part of my job that I spend a lot of time on. And it's not ready for folks yet, but if you're interested or you've got questions about it or want to be involved in beta testing, you can always send me an email after this meeting, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it because it's really exciting what we're building and what will be available. It's going to have all the same capabilities as the current RLID, but a more sort of modern design and a much more sort of like the background, the underground technology is a lot more current and easier to maintain. So, who are we? All right, I'm going to admit some folks here while we get in. My name is Mara Williams. I am the GIS support associate, GIS applications support associate at LCOG. And I work with RLID. And these are names that you might be familiar with, but for folks who are watching this, it's always helpful to define what these different acronyms are. And RLID is the Regional Land Information Database. It's a lot of things, but it's primarily sort of a website at rlid.org that folks log into and then use a variety of tools to research property information in Lane County. And RLID is governed by something called the LGDC, or the Lane Geographic Data Consortium. And this is a governing body that's made up of the City of Eugene, City of Springfield, eWeb, Lane County, and LCOG. And they sort of have this agreement of sharing data and sharing resources so that it's available to everyone in the consortium and then to like members of LCOG or to private subscribers as well, because this is the kind of regional data that is useful for a lot of people and doesn't need to be maintained in multiple places. Like it makes a lot more sense and it's a lot more efficient to have one group of people maintaining the software and keeping the data tidy, doing the trainings and that sort of thing, and then everybody gets to use it. And LCOG is the Lane Council of Governments. City of Florence is a member, along with lots of other local governments, local agencies, and LCOG sort of coordinates plans, does programs, does planning, all sorts of things for sort of like the health of our region, basically economic, physical, all sorts of things. And so that's who we are. And RLID, if you've never been in there or you just want the sort of the big overview, the big overview for RLID is that it's got information on pretty much everywhere in Lane County. And it's fed by different parts of those consortium members. But so we get information about permits, about taxes, about boundaries, service districts, basically anyone around the county who is doing information with land, we have an opportunity to bring that information in and then kind of package it or like consolidate it so that instead of having to go to like 4 or 5 different databases and search the same tax lot or the same address, what you can do is go to RLID, search that address or that tax lot, and get all of the information collected in one place. And so it makes getting the whole view of what's going on in a location a lot easier to see. And there's a lot of cool things you can do in RLID. Um, Accessing RLID. This is not like not nothing. Like in order to use RLID, you have to get into RLID. If you already work for an organization that has an RLID account, so City of Florence counts, Dune City, what you need to get an account if you don't have one is find out in your organization who the primary account holder is. They can add you directly, or they can email us at RLID support with like your email and your name, and we can add you. But once you get added, either way, you'll get an email with a link that has a link to set up your password. That's that circle in orange there. Skipping ahead. And it also has the name of your username. And so for Florence, it's FL. But interestingly, every account or organization shares a username. So, like, your username is going to be the same as your coworker's username. However, in the back end, back in the database, in the pipes, there is like a unique identifier for you, and the sort of the reports you create or the settings you save, like that is attached to like an individual user account for you, which you access with your own password. So even though it sometimes looks like you're going into like a big group account, it's not. It's just that you're identified by your organization first. And if you have trouble setting up your password, or your person has trouble getting you added, just contact support. You'll see this a lot of times in this presentation. They'll like, if you have trouble, just let us know because we're here and we're happy to help. And sometimes things go wrong, or there's information that isn't clear, and we're really happy to help you get in. So to log in, once you have your account, on the page on rlid.org, look for the login form on the left side of the homepage. It's sort of just to the left of the picture. It's underneath this big red payments button, and then you'll use your shared username and your password to log in. And I'm going to switch over here and log in with mine. And it does, if you're logged in from 2 different locations, you just have to log in again. And again, if there's any trouble with logging in, just let us know because we'll help you out. And when you log in, this menu on the left-hand side gets longer, but otherwise you're kind of on the same page. But you are logged in now. I'll see this little log off button here. That tells me that I'm logged in, as well as just being able to see things like this property search, maps, deeds and records, taxes balance due. These are all different parts of the site that are ways to think about information, look at different properties around the county. On this front page, we also have any kind of news, a link to our frequently asked questions, and which has some tutorials. There's this 2-minute video that is really easy to watch if you are like, I forgot how to do a simple search. This will walk you through that. And if I go back to home, and then also this over here on the right-hand side, this is my account. And if you are an admin user, this is where you would add people, like manage logins, but it's also where you could change your password, change your contact information, that kind of thing. So temporary account for this training. Like I said, I'm going to be sort of showing you on my screen, but if you want to follow along and you don't have your own RLID account, you can use this account. The username is eval RLID and the password is Florence May 14th, 14. And it's good for like the next week. So it's temporary, but it'll let you get in right away. One other thing just to let folks know, password reset. If you forget your password, we have a way you can sort of like get it automatically, and it involves filling out this little form. If you don't have the right information, like your email has changed or you can't remember your last name has changed, something has changed, and it doesn't work to use that form, just send us an email and we'll help you out and we'll do the reset for you. And before we get started with searching, just to think about like what you're trying to do, and this is where I said at the beginning, a lot of people use RLID for all kinds of things. So the first thing, before I even teach you like how to use this search tool, is to think about what are you trying to do and what kind of information do you want? And that helps sort of choose a tool and choose an approach that's going to be the easiest for getting you what you need. There's a lot of different tools and a lot of different ways to sort of get to the same information. And so thinking about like, what information am I starting with? Or what kinds of output do I want? If I want a map, RLID maps might be a really good tool to use. Or if I want photos and documents, if I want deeds or recorded documents, then using deeds and records search might be useful. So that's one thing to start with. And the real like simple search process, which is what most of our RLID users do, is go to the homepage, log in, start a standard search, put in an address usually, get to the results page, look at a report, like view a report, and maybe export it or save it to PDF, and that's it. So that's the place to really start, is how to do that workflow, because everything else kind of can build on top of that. So the first thing I'm going to do from the homepage is over here on the left-hand side, I'm going to go to property search. If I click here, I will get to, I need to just get I want to make sure my window is all on the screen. We're going to have lots of fun with windows here for a second. I appreciate your patience while we figure this out. There we go. 1, 2. That looks pretty good. All right, so I hit property search. This will give you an outline of like what the tools are and how you can use them. I'm going to use standard search, and standard property search has this simple one at the top, which is kind of like a Google style, where I can just start typing an address. So if I want 2625, it'll start populating for me of different addresses that match what I'm putting in. So if I want highway, and you can see pretty quickly how a small amount of information actually gets you something really specific quickly. So I want this 2625 Highway 101, and I can choose that. And then I go over to the right-hand side to this green Get Results button. I click that. And then I'm over here in this results page. And because I searched for one address, I have one result, and it's great. We'll show some other times when you get more than one result and how to sort of deal with that and find what you're looking for. I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint before we before sort of diving into that, just because this is the search form. We went for the search by full or partial address. There's other ways you can search as well. The icons. So the icons on the results page are these little guys right here. I've blown them up uh, pretty big so that we can see them, but they're actions for the row of that results table. And depending on, sometimes you'll see more or less icons. If the address has a business on it, for example, there will be an extra business report that's available. Um, some subscriptions, if you don't have the local government subscriptions or super premium subscriptions, you'll see sort of like one or two less buttons. But in this top row, these are actions that will open content in a new browser tab, and this is all about the same property. So it's different ways of looking at information about that particular property. And going from left to right, I've got this sort of little blurry mountain that opens a page of images. It's all the documents, PDFs, uh, pictures, anything that's sort of a file that you would need to look at, essentially. That's something you can look at on one page. The next one is a summary report, which is a single page property report that has it's not as detailed, but it's really digestible and has information about like the address, the like improvements, the buildings. Um, then next to that, so that's the second top one that has the number one in it. The third from the left, so one, two, three, little blurry guy here. He is the detailed property report. And that's where you're going to see the most information about the property and where a lot of people go. Um, and then the fourth one on that top row opens RLID maps. So if you want to explore where that property is in relationship, like in sort of a Google Maps style, or you want to look at it in overhead or see boundaries or explore it in a different way, you can open it that way. So going back over here, and you can see on my screen that they're really small. And if you hover over them, you will get a little hint about each of those. So if I hit this property images, um, these are all the property, or these are all the images and PDFs that are attached to this particular property. Admit that person. Um, so tax maps, plat maps, assessor sketches, and you can click on each of these and it'll open in a new screen. So if you needed to see those. If I go back here, this one, that's the property summary. This is the one that it prints really nicely to a single page PDF, and has, just like it's not everything, but it can sometimes be a really nice way to look at that information. And then we're going to leave RLID maps, but let's go to the detailed property report. So the detailed property report is really long. It's got a lot of information, and it's in collapsible sections. So we've got a show all and a hide all, but over here on the right-hand side at the top, we've got some things you can do with it. You can print it to PDF, or just send it to your printer just without doing that conversion. You can use this drop down to go to different parts of this. So if you are interested in like property values and taxes, you can go there directly and then see the information. And property values and taxes also has a graph with it, so you can see it mapped on a graph. And then over here on the left-hand side, there's this little top button, and that'll take me right back to the top. So again, I can go and see what other things I want to know about this particular address. If I want to look at like political districts, it'll show me that. It'll show me like school districts, environmental data. There's a lot of things to explore. And if a site doesn't have a piece of information in here. So like liens, that's often there aren't any liens on a property. And so if there's nothing there, it'll sort of be collapsed like that. But you can always open it and be like, I'm gonna check. Because this one, building permits, there actually might be some building permits, but we need to go over to Acela and log in over there to see that. So, one thing to know also is that each of these, like anything that's hyperlinked, is either going to be like an external site. So, like this one is going to be a link to the Lane County site for tax assessment. Um, and it says this one doesn't have one for this year, but we can go back to, so now we're in their site and looking at their information. Um, and sometimes there's also, see if I can find one, things like this like underlined account status. If I click that, it'll give me some information about what that means in the context of RLID. And so sometimes it has definitions or it has information about where the data comes from, how often it gets populated, that kind of thing. So a lot of these ones that are sort of blue and have the little question mark when you click on it, that has just a little piece of information that you can use to help you understand what's in this report. And then finally, you'll see this one, these like little red icons that have an eye, and that'll give you information about the whole like section. So this will tell you all about the maps here and what they are and how they were produced. Um, Business information will tell you sort of where we get that information from, and then if there's things that would help you kind of put this part of the piece into context. There is also a link here to RLID Maps, so you can launch it directly from here. And this site up at the top, if there is like a related account, so like if there's two or more tax accounts associated with a property, or there's more than one address associated with a property, you'll see sort of up here in this area, there'll be a related links section. And we'll see that here in just a minute. And if you want to start a new property search, there's a button right here on the upper right, or you can go up and just sort of, go from the beginning. And so I did say that I was going to like ask you to wait for questions, but do you have any questions about that process right there? Like going from searching for an address, getting getting the to the search results, and then starting to look at the detailed property report. If there's anything you want to see again, I'm happy to go through that.
I think we're good here. I think we're already finding out stuff that maybe we didn't know, like why the buttons we click on lead to places. So
Yes,
it's super helpful.
totally.
Because
Yeah.
you can find a lot of these things by clicking around, but now we're
Yes.
actually finding out. So
Exactly. And you can see even like here's these little icons that have information about like how to use these different form fields and like what will return. So like, you know, Broadway would come like this, and but Broadway would. However, if you try to put in East Broadway, like if you spell it out, it doesn't understand it. But if I do E Broad, oh, I think I need an address here. So East, but if I try to like spell it out, it suddenly is like I don't understand what you're doing. And so that's some things that these little hints will help, even if you'll figure it out sort of through trial and error. But we get this way. And this one has two, um, like two entries, right? And this is where it's really one place, right? It's 318 East Broadway. It's one site address, it's one city, one zip code. However, there are two owners that are registered with it. And because of how this version of RLID returns data, you get a row for each of the combination of map and tax lot, account, which is your tax account, your site address, and your owner. And so because this site has two owners, we get two rows of data. Um, if we go in and look at it, like if we launch RLID Maps from this one, take me a second here. I'm going to get to this one place, zoom out a little bit. You can see where we are. And then I'm going to go back. So that was the top result. The next result, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to launch the map. Now I've got two copies, and we can see it's the same building. And so one thing with this version of RLID to keep track of is looking at your data rows and kind of being aware that you might have more than one data row, but really we're talking about one map and tax lot number, one place in the world. And if we open, so I'm going to go to the top 1, 2, 3, that's the detailed property report. Here you can see there's additional site addresses associated with this count, and we've got see additional owner taxpayer section for additional owners. And so that's where we sort of get to see that the extra information that results in getting more than one um, tax tax account. If I look for, I'm going to do this a different way because you can use this simple one or you can search like parts of an address. So I can choose a city, I can choose like a street name. I'm going to search for 18 and I'll go for this is a apartment complex in Eugene. So with just that house number and street name in the whole county, I didn't even tell it was in Eugene. I get all of the apartments in this one apartment complex. And again, it's an apartment complex. It has the same map and tax lot number. It has the same tax account, so that it's paying, one tax bill. It has the same owner, but because each of those site addresses I could send mail to individually, and if I needed to like send mail because there was, sewer work being done or something like that, I would need to send a postcard to everybody. And this will show you that there are all of those addresses at this one site. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. This is stuff that if you I'm making the PowerPoint available as well. That having these icons and the definitions in this sort of blown up way, I find really useful. But you can also kind of do this by just trial and error. But the bottom row has ways to download or view reports in sort of different ways. So this first one on the left will just straight up download that detailed property report. If you're getting a lot of them and you just know that if I'm going to click into I don't have to like go here, open it up, and then click. I can just click here and it would give me a PDF. There's an option to make a custom property report. So if you're only interested in like election zoning, then like you could sort of figure it out so that you only see that part. I see a question. Thank you for using your hands because that's really
Yeah.
helpful.
Suddenly it's saying we're having poor connectivity. I'm not sure how it is on your end. I just wanted to check in real quick.
Oh yeah, I've been fine. Have you been able to hear me?
Yeah, I think we're good. I just figured if we
Okay.
pause
Yeah. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that. Yeah, that is the age of the internet, is occasionally having a conversation and things kind of just break apart. Um,
I don't think
so
we
yeah,
missed anything, but I just want to make sure for the recording's sake that we were still on track. But
yes,
we'll just go
totally.
mute again and I'll let you know if there's another problem.
Perfect. Thank you so much. But yeah, so this is going to be part of the PDF that you'll be able to see. Um, the profile report is modeled after a particular kind of real estate report that some of our private subscribers who are real estate agents find really useful. Um, and it's formatted in a specific way. But it's also a sort of another feature of like a lot of people use RLID to ask different questions, and we will make reports that sort of fit certain use cases. And then similarly, we've got a business report. So this is we get our information from Info USA Gov. It's not always accurate. It's sort of one of the pieces that isn't kept at the county level really well. So we include it because it's really useful, but it's worth knowing that often it's good to verify that. And then this report kit, if you work for one of the local government agencies, or you are you're sort of our highest subscriber tier, there's this ability to kind of create a custom report, and basically get a whole lot of information about it really quickly. So I can get the related accounts, I could get the most recent deed, and I can sort of put that together. Um, a lot of our users really are just doing sort of a standard property search. Sometimes you can search by map and tax lot. And let's see, I'm going to grab this map and tax lot here. Oops, if I can make my mouse work. And when I go to map and tax lot and I have those numbers in my copy, and I'm going to just paste it, what it does is it automatically splits it into the map number and the tax lot number, which I find really useful. And then I can get results, and it will return what I'm looking for. Similarly, I can search by tax account. And so if you're doing work on property taxes and you've got a list of tax accounts, this is a way you don't have to like find the address and search for the address. You could just go straight to the account, uh, and make sure that I got all of it. There's something, I'm not sure if we're gonna get all of that, because where's the tax account? Seven. And this is not a feature I use a lot. There we go. So making sure that you've sort of pasted the information, you've got all the information in there, is something to keep in mind for tax accounts that have a sort of a strict limit to how many characters or how many numbers it's going to accept. But if I get results, I'm searching on that tax account. And then finally, I can search on the owner. Um, and so if I go, I'll just start over. Um, on the owner, I can choose starts with, contains, matches. So if I want to just see fire, and see what are my owners that have the word fire in them, uh, we get a whole lot. Some of them are businesses, some of them are rural fire districts, or, like some of them are just people who have who have the word fire in their in their um in their name. So that's another way to start to search for information. And at the beginning, when I was talking about like what kind of information do you have, sometimes you might have part of an owner name or part of an address, and you can search for that. If I refine my results, I go here, and I go, actually, I want fire district. See if we get anybody. And then I'm getting things that only have the fire with space and then D and I. So you can use that partial word stuff to get more refined. Um, and this is, here I'm interested in like what owners have fire district in their name. Um, and I've got 58 data rows, but if again, sort of looking at like where these are, how many accounts they are, there might be we might have some repeats here that are the same place, that just have one of this has an address, they have different tax accounts. So being aware of like how to make sense of the results you're getting. Um, and also when you get results back and you've got more than just like a single result, you can export your results to an Excel spreadsheet. And again, depending on what you're doing, this can be really useful. Um, and because then you can search for things, you can transform stuff. If you want to stretch your Excel muscles, it will give you the data that then you can use, on your own to do the work that you need to do. Um, and one thing to know is that when I'm doing this standard search, I can get up to 2,000 data rows. That's what the website will show me. That's a lot. It's hard to get through all that. If I download the Excel, I can download up to 10,000 results. And then advanced property search, which we'll talk about in a minute, is a different way of searching. And you're usually searching for more than one property sometimes. Or like I'm looking for properties that meet a specific set of criteria. And so that's will display more data. So it'll display up to 5,000. And again, that's a lot to kind of tab through as like a, a user. Or you can download it, and you can download the Excel spreadsheet will download up to 50,000 results. So another check-in on questions or things that need clarity before going back to the next piece.
We're
Hearing
good.
none. Awesome. I'm so glad. And like I said, I'm not going to go through all of this because this is really for like kind of referring to later and giving you an overall view of like the basics of what these reports are and how to make sense of like what kind of information you can get. So RLID maps, we'll talk about that next. So we looked at it a little bit by seeing how those two data rows, if you click them open in RLID maps, it's the same building. We have two versions of RLID maps. We have RLID maps basic and RLID maps pro. If you are, most local government users have pro, and all like some of our higher tier subscribers also have pro. But basic, which everybody has, you get to interact with the map, you can search, you can draw on the map, you can like print maps. It's great for like walking maps, or if like I need to make directions for someone to be like, how do I get from like the county office to the LCOG office? And I can pull up RLID maps and like draw a little path for them, or highlight here's the parking. And you can also view like boundaries, road names, all sorts of things. In Pro, which again is what you guys have, you can do a couple of extra things. So you can make a mailing list based on distance from an address or from like a point on the map. So you can say, everyone who is within, you know, 250 yards of this fire hydrant, I want to send a postcard to. There's a way to do that. And there's actually a tutorial, um, which is linked here, and I think I have it up in here. Yes, so there is a tutorial like that will walk you through how to do this, and it uses a Florence address as its example. Uh, but it shows you like each tool to use and how to basically start with a place and get down to, okay, here are all of the properties I want to include, and then getting to like a list at the end. And this is, so going back to RLID Maps, this is our live little 318 East Broadway. If I click on it, I get a pop-up and I get those same pieces of information that we saw in regular RLID. And if I click this map and tax lot number, I can actually go back into regular RLID and it will show me all of the data that is associated with that map and tax lot. So here actually we've got multiple addresses, multiple owners, same tax account, and same tax lot. But so you can sort of use that button and then this one to jump back and forth if what you need to look at actually is like, I want to look at like the street. I want to see how close it is to other things. The All of those addresses that are being they're sort of generated dynamically. So sometimes I'll like zoom out and then it'll take a second and then all of those will render in a moment. I'm giving it a lot of information right now. So I'm going to close back in. If I click this layer list right now, you'll see, and if you've used any like geographic information system Esri products, these will be very familiar to you. But you can basically turn these on and off. So if what I need to do is like look at the map just visually, and I'm just going to be like, actually, I wanted to see how does this relate to like this bridge? I can turn off those information layers until I get to the place where I actually am interested in. And then I can go back, turn that layer list, and then click that reference again. And it'll take a second because I've moved, but here they are. And then I can click and be like, here, I want to see these tax lots that are right down here. What's this guy? Right? Which is this one? Uh, and and within of all of these, this is a point where we do a whole training on RLID maps, and it's really fascinating. There's so much you can do, but you can turn off individual parts if, like, I don't need the addresses, but actually the tax lots are really useful. Um, I often use the transportation group because that will label the streets, and again, good for directions. But depending on what settings you have there, it'll label like the major roads. It'll label. You can get up to. I love the transportation group. You can get inside the road names, like local roads, minor roads. Like you can be really granular with what you show. And there is boundaries. This is the other thing. So service districts, school districts, if I want to see what my school districts are, I see this like blue Eugene, and there's a legend here that will tell me what's sort of active on my map right now. And so I get this blue kind of double bordered thing that looks like that. And because we're zoomed in, I won't see much, but if I start to zoom out, there are the boundaries. So that is Eugene district is over here and Springfield district is over here. So if I want to visually inspect like boundary lines, RLID Maps is a great tool for that. Or I can go in, I'm just going to get real close somewhere over here, click a tax lot, go to RLID, go to a detailed property report, go to, where am I? Service providers, schools. And then here we've got school district Springfield. So like you can really go back and forth between the two and get a lot of good information depending on what you're looking at. Um, and RLID Maps. And then the other thing that happens in RLID Maps Pro that there's also another tutorial about um, is you can add data to this, like basically on top of what you're seeing. So if I wanted to add the FEMA national flood hazards, I can just click add. It'll take a moment. And then if I go over to my layer list, it's on top and I can then use it and work with it in the same way. And it'll tell me all sorts of things about that particular thing. There's also we've got a a group of, we call them RLID map resources, but they're basically like curated resources that are really relevant to Lane County and helpful to our users. So things like zoning, landslide susceptibility is a really fascinating layer. I find this one really, really interesting. And with each one, it comes with its own kind of legend, and you can turn it on and off. Um, we also have air photos, um, and this is not like an introduction to RLID maps. I just love RLID maps so much that I want to show you these. So air photos, if you have to add it, which means you have to have RLID Maps Pro. But when you add it, you can actually change what the picture, the overhead view. I'm going to turn my references off because this will make it a little bit easier to see. And so right now, if we wanted to change, I think that might be I can't remember if it's the current one that it starts with, but if I want to go back in time, basically, and say, what did we get in 2020? I can click that and it will change the photograph that's the basic, like the sort of background to what we had in 2020. And so if you want to see like, you know, sort of zoomed in and depending on the map and or depending on the year, sometimes the quality, like the amount of pixels will be different. And so like this one's a little bit less detail than if we click on the 2023, we get a lot more sharpness, right? And we can be like, oh, we can see like how many roofs are here, or like if I want to see like are there outbuildings? What's the exits of this particular place? So this can be a really great tool to like go back in time. Here's one that we have that has like higher pixels, but you can see kind of in time what has changed. And that can be really, really helpful. Um, and there is a tutorial that I highlight in the ability to add layers for FEMA flood zones. That tutorial will tell you how to do that step by step, but it's the same for adding any of the other layers. So we're really close on time. I don't want to spend a ton of time on advanced search, but as local government users, and again, the higher levels of our subscribers, there is advanced searches available to you, and this is a really detailed tool that you can search for basically anything that we report on that detailed property report is it's often something you can search by. So if you wanted to search for all of the properties inside a certain school district, you can do that. In our simple search, you've got you can search by address, owner, tax account, map and tax lot, business name. Like that's all that's allowed. Um, but if what you're looking for is something much more specific than that, like I'm looking for zoning or I'm looking for tax, like specific taxing districts, this tool is incredibly useful. Um, it's also pretty intimidating, I find, but the more I use it, the more I kind of get comfortable with it. So it's worth a try. And some use cases like groups of property that share like a common zoning or a common service district, like finding I helped someone find uh, information where they knew the mobile home owner's name and they knew the address where the mobile home was, but they couldn't get that out of uh, like like because of how addresses are related when it's a mobile home, it wasn't coming up in a simple search. And so we used advanced search to do that. And so it's that kind of stuff that you can, like my example here of properties with an assessed value of over 1 million inside the West Lane Ambulance District with out-of-state owners. You can search that and you can find how many people or how many properties come back with that. Um, and again, that's sort of like a little bit out of our scope for all of the things that are in there. But I would say if you're interested, uh, to start exploring it, know that it has these different tabs which collect like different sections. And if you think about this as like sections of the detailed property report, sort of improvements, we've got districts here, we've got zoning. And there's a lot of options. And so this is where I use those little red hint boxes a lot because it helps me understand sort of what I'm looking for and how I might use it. And some of these are, you know, I want to look for uh, Florence, and then inside of Florence, I can also choose I want everything in the airport zone, and that'll select for me. And then if I go back up to the top, I see um, this like red asterisk on the page, and that tells me that I've added something to it. So if I also wanted to say add something with the land value and, you know, say I want land values over, you know, 1 million, or I don't know. This is the part where I don't know much about what I'm searching for, but I'm curious what what land is worth more than 250,000 in that zone? And if I get the count, it'll tell me before I even get my results how many how many I'm getting, which is really useful if you do that count and you're like, because I'm going to look for like, you know, 25,000, get my count. Oh, I still have some. That's really interesting. And then like the uh you basically can kind of see like, am I getting nothing or am I getting 10,000 records? And then but if 50 data results, that's something I can understand. I'm going to get my results and then I can look through it and see, open up those property reports, open up the map, do everything that I wanted to do, export the results, that sort of thing. Um, and so there's a little bit of information about how to do that and some general search tips and support. But basically, contact support when you're having trouble. If you can't recover your password, you need help finding a specific property, or if you find information that isn't right, where you're like that the owner isn't right, or something where the data isn't right, let us know, and then we'll reach out to the agency that provides that data and let them know, and then they can fix it. And then this is my contact